Good morning, brothers and sisters. May the Lord bless you. I'd like to testify here from Tijuana, Mexico. Last week on Thursday, I was here waiting to go to the church, and I received a phone call in which I was told that my house was on fire. It was my wife, and she shouted, "Our house is on fire." So what I did is said, okay, I'm going to go there. I was here in a different town, and I turned around to look toward where the house is located, and I could see that there was smoke very high in the air, and I thought this must be a very big fire, so I found a taxi. It was as if the taxi was waiting for me. I got into the taxi, and it went straight to my home. It didn't even stop. And when I got there, I could see that the house was engulfed in flames. I couldn't even see the house because there was smoke everywhere and flames. We all thought that the house was on fire. It was dark. All we could see was smoke and fire. And it turned out that the firefighters were there putting out the fire. The house was there. We didn't know if there was any damage done to it. And so later we approached the house, and the house was all there intact. There weren't even any marks on it from the smoke. It was as if nothing had happened to the house. There were just ashes everywhere. And when the firefighters finished putting out the fire, they all knelt down and began to pray. And I testify to exalt and honor my Heavenly Father. Powerful is the Lord.
Bless you all. In past prophecies, the Lord would tell me, I will allow for you to go through a difficult situation, but do not worry, for I am going to be with you. And this is how 2.5 years ago I was diagnosed with cancer. It was a very difficult situation I went through, but as the Lord told me in that prophecy, He was with me each step of the way. And when I was suffering from the pains for that big tumor I had was the size of an orange. And this is how time went by. I began my chemo treatments, and I had to undergo different tests, and they realized that the cancer had come back and had metastasized, and it was spreading to other organs, and it was spreading through my body. And I thank the Lord because I didn't feel sad. I would always remember that promise that the Lord had given me. He said, "You will receive words from my beloved servant." And after that, brothers and sisters, some time went by, and I couldn't attend to church that week because I was undergoing my chemo treatment. And sometimes I wasn't allowed, I wasn't feeling very well, and I wouldn't be able to have the greatest mobility in my hands and my feet. So our Sister Maria Luisa came in May last year, and she prophesied for the whole church. And the Lord said that there was going to be healings, and great healings. And this is how the Lord would as well speak to me in prophecy, and He would tell me, "I have healed you. Do not forget that. Do not forget that I've healed you. I want you to be patient. But do not forget that from this point on, you must remember what I am telling you. You are completely healed." And this is how this past Friday, the doctor spoke to me and said, "You are completely free of cancer." And I want to exalt our God because of this great work He's done in my life.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. May the Lord bless you. 15 years ago, the Lord told me through prophecy that I would be a mother one day, but a different type of mother. When my husband was going to ask for my hand in marriage, he first told me he wanted to speak to me face to face because he lived in a different city, that he was not able to have children. According to his doctors, he was infertile, and if I still wanted to marry him. In that moment, I remember the prophecy from the Lord, and the first thing I thought was, maybe I'll adopt. I'll be a mother by adopting a baby. But no problem, I love you, and let's get married. Soon after, I got pregnant, and it was a miracle for us because we knew it was the Lord's promise, but I had a threat of miscarriage. I was hospitalized, and I lost the baby. And so I thought at that moment that the Lord had allowed me to be a mother and that this was his promise fulfilled. And my son was with him in heaven. After some time, the doctors ran more tests and told me that I was no longer able to have children. And if I was ever pregnant again, I would have a miscarriage. But the Lord in his infinite mercy allowed me to be pregnant again. And that same day that I found out, I started to bleed. And we had to go to the hospital, and I was informed that I had a high-risk pregnancy, and the test results showed that I had to stay in bed until the day that I either had a miscarriage or they asked me if I even wanted to continue with this pregnancy. We decided to continue on, and every test result that I had showed that the baby had Down syndrome, had heart failure, and that she would not have the same intelligence as a normal person. I would go to church in pain because it hurt when I walked, when I stood up. Once a week, I would go to the emergency room, but the Lord spoke to me when I was 6 months pregnant, and he said to me, "You are the one who is sick and not your baby. But don't worry, only you are the one who is sick, but I will allow the baby to be born healthy." And brothers and sisters, I had preeclampsia. I needed medication for my lungs. And the Lord put a very special person to look over me in the hospital. A doctor who each time that he saw me, he would say, "Don't worry, let's continue to fight so that the baby can at least arrive at 6 months. But she's very small. We need her to make it until 7 months." They had to induce the pregnancy, and my baby was born. Doctors were so amazed, and they ran to see how her heart was doing, and I said, "Show her to me, show her to me." I wanted to see if she had Down syndrome. But when I saw her, she was perfect. When doctors took her to run tests, her heart was perfect, and they checked her brain, and it was perfect as well. My daughter is now 6 years old, and she is a smart girl and does not have any type of complication. The doctor told me, "You need a surgery. We need to take out your uterus because you cannot be pregnant again." And that was a miracle, and that miracle won't happen twice. This is what one of my doctors said to me. But the doctor who was always with me said, "It's your decision, but I did not want to take out your uterus. Let's wait 2 years and see what happens. But you cannot be pregnant again or you will suffer a miscarriage." Exactly 2 years after, when we were celebrating my daughter's birthday, I found out I was pregnant. Once again, I had a very high-risk pregnancy. Doctors told me to stay in bed for my full pregnancy, and they saw that the baby was small in size, but he was doing okay. But I would not be able to wait until the 9 months as they would have to induce. And so they induced the pregnancy, but the day before I went to the hospital, I heard prophecy, and the Lord said to me, "When you give birth, the evil one will be there as he wants to take your life. Pray to me in that moment." And so when my baby was born, they were not able to take out my uterus because the doctor said, "We were not able to take out your uterus when you gave birth." But when they were doing the after labor care, one of my uterine fibroids burst, and this was very concerning for doctors as I could die as I was bleeding out. And so they decided to take out my uterus. My 2 children, brothers and sisters, as the Lord promised, I am a mother, a different type of mother as I had to suffer in both pregnancies, but I am a very happy mother in the name of the Lord, and I testify to give the glory and the honor to the Lord.